Hello, man. Hello, Mgtow. I forgot to bring some water. Let's make sure this is working and everything's right. Just want to stop by and say hello, man. Hello, Mgtow. It's Sunday. Go your own way. Go your own way, Mgtow. All your sins are forgiven. I know I'm a little late today. I should say, go your own way. Go your own way. Go your own way, guys. Today I wanted to follow up on a video with my friend Swine Dog. Swine Dog was looking at the black pill today, and he sort of rejected it, and he said some critical things about it, and he was right. He was absolutely 100% right about it, and I wanted to follow up on that and talk about philosophy and the Mgtow philosophy. Hello, Aaron. And the Mgtow philosophy and how philosophy works in the modern day world. If we get caught up in the philosophy of the 1800s, then we get stuck. A lot of philosophers after that realized that most of the time with philosophy, the entire experience of philosophy never came out of the 1800s. Hence, Nietzsche died before his time. He got syphilis. He went mad. Descartes, most of the people, these intense writings and these long writings never transcended to the end action. And then Dewey finally came along, and life expectancy was great. And Dewey lived a great life expectancy and wrote 100 books on subjects of philosophy and everything, and finally came to a philosopher's end. And the philosopher's end is pragmaticism. And in that pragmaticism, we get guys like Camus, and we get guys like Camus even ended abruptly. His life was shortened, but Dewey's considered one of the greats because he extended philosophy, and he gave us an idea of action at the end of the thing. When you're looking at nihilism, and nihilism is what Swine Dog was talking about today. Nihilism is a small part of a process. And when you read Nietzsche, you have to understand that how this process works. You have to read the entire book too. A lot of people don't read the entire books. They read small pieces of they read small pieces of little pieces of the book, and then they take to that little piece. Any ism taken on its own is a fragmented philosophy. You got what happens with Nietzsche, and you can look into Camus. He explained Nietzsche at one point. He explained Nietzsche in The Rebel. There's a whole chapter explaining Nietzsche, and he does a very good job explaining and extending that a little bit. A lot of philosophers, Bentham, explained Nietzsche, and then he got into it with Dewey. He didn't like what Dewey was, but he was wrong about that too. And then Dewey explains why he was wrong, and they got into a little tiff and everything. But hey, that's the lifestyle. But in any philosophy, it works like this. You can look at Descartesism or Cartesian logic, and then the first thing you do is easy. You go nihilistic. You take everything off the table. Everything comes off the table. Now, Descartes called it something else. He called it reductionism. You do reductionism. Well, he didn't call it reductionism, but you did reductionism. You moved everything off the table, and there it was. You put back on the table the thought that you had. In itself, nihilism is just removing everything off the table. I deny everything. I deny the existence of myself even. Now, with that comes another part. You have to do reductionism. You reduce everything. You put something back on the table that you want to know. And it's a method. It's an epistemol message is what you're doing. It's a method. There's a method to these things. You're going to do the reductionalism, then you're going to do reconstructionalism, and that's what Dewey. That's where Dewey came in. He's the reconstructionalist, and you reconstruct whatever you put on the table back the way you see it in the way it logically exists, not what you were told, not with somebody else. You break it down to its mere elements, its basic elements of what it is. Then you rebuild it in a way that works for you. Now, the last message that Dewey gave us was you have to put everything in action. Nothing in this world works without action. And that's what I see in Mgtow. Mgtow is a deep, dark hole sometimes of nihilism, and people get affixed to nihilism, and there's no action. And that's the actual question I see sometimes with with guys like Mgtow when he got it. He took everything off the table, he removed everything, and you got to wonder what you're doing here. You come to Mgtow, you've taken everything off the table. You say all this stuff that we've learned in our life is bull, and I'm taking all that off the table. But if you get stuck there on your period of nihilism, you never leave yourself room for growth. And Mgtow is about growth. So I put back on the table what I believe, and that's individual to the person and individual to the person's intelligence, who he is, where he is, his demographics, what questions he's asking about this world. Whether that be to the female, whether that be to success, whether that be to schooling, whether that be to just living happily. There's all these questions. There's 100 different questions in Mgtow. There's thousands of different questions. Whatever your specific needs are, you put that back on the table and you start reconstructing that thing without the presence of whatever you were told to do from the beginning. And in Mgtow, that's easy. We're not protectors. We're not providers. We're not getting married. We're not doing the religialistic thing, and we're not doing the rituals that will lead up in any form or fashion to marriage. So I'm not going to do that, but I have to reconstruct my life now. I have to reconstruct the life that works for me, and that's where the Mgtow works. It's a simple process of reconstruction. The red pill rage in itself is what provokes it. It's that because that I talk about. It's by cause. You go into the red pill rage, and then you start the nihilistic thing where you come into Mgtow and you're looking for answers. So you remove everything off the table. You say nothing exists as I know it. You can't live in that area where nothing exists. I see so many guys get stuck on this. They get stuck on a philosophy. They read the book, and that's the only chapter they seem to take to, because it's an easy. Skepticism is that way too. But in Descartesism and even Kierkegaard, you have to reconstruct what you've taken off the table. You can't leave the table empty. You can't leave it empty because you'll have an empty life. So you start putting back on the table work. How do I believe work is? What is work? What is labor? You start asking yourself questions like that. You become a fuller Mgtow person. When you go through all the questions in your life, then you truly, truly become a Mgtow when you put something in the end into action and you see if it works. Now that's where Dewey came in, and he was very important. He says none of all this other garbage it's just perception, and it's one person's perception against another person's perception, and this and that and that. And you can talk about it, and we can philosophize it, and we can do everything, but a doorknob will never work unless you put it on a door. A doorknob is useless unless you put it on a door and you test it. And then you open it and you shut it. And if you like it, you leave it and the doorknob works. A doorknob can be an idea. And at the beginning, a doorknob was an idea. Somebody said, what if we put a latch here that opened this way and permitted you to swing the door out, but also permitted the door to be held in place? And if he goes, nothing exists, No, you put it back on the table and you go, how can I make this happen? I'm going to reconstruct this thing in my head. I'm sure back in the medieval times, they used a brick in front of the door or a rock. And they're going, why do you need a doorknob when you got a perfectly good rock? Now, Dewey also taught us that in this modern age, modernity and everything, we went through World War II. Now we have the atom bomb. We went through, in his lifetime, Newton, not Newton, he's seen vast changes from the Western bang, bang, bang. And he was, in the Civil War and all that stuff. He's seen vast changes up through the atom bomb and up to Korea. And a little bit past, he died in 1954. But he witnessed a grand age of reconstruction, and it made sense to him. Him and Oliver Wendell Holmes and even John Stuart, not John Stuart Mills, Pierce, and they built a new philosophy here in America, and they realized that the old philosophies were never complete. And this is a very Mgtow thing to do. If you get stuck somewhere, if you get stuck on one of these isms, you're having a fragmented thought is what you're doing. Your thoughts are fragmented. There's no room to move forward if you get stuck on one of these isms. Nihilism is fun to say, and it's a fun to practice, and it's a lot like I was talking about yesterday with contrarianism. Contrarianism is about the same thing, and you're just doing the same thing. You're denying everything. You're moving the opposite direction, but you have to do one thing. If you keep moving the opposite direction in life, then you're just going to keep moving in the opposite direction. And it's designed to be absurdity, and absurdity against itself gives the reality of what is. So in the absurdity, you see the absurdity. In the thing that happens, the contrarianism, you see the absurdity of the idea that is presented to you, but you can't leave it vacant. You can't leave your house vacant with no furniture. Why did you buy a house anyways? You bought a house to put no furniture in it. You start putting things back together in your life as a Mgtow. You start putting things back together in your life with intended results that they're gonna work from experience. You've taken off all this garbage. You've taken off these things that people have been telling you that we know don't work, or the percentages way out. Marriage, the percentages way out that it's not gonna work, and you're gonna get hit. And why you would even go down that line is just not a pragmatic decision, because we can look around. We can see things. We can observe these things that happen around us. We can put those into place. And even with the metaphysics of that, we can draw a conclusion. These things are a priori. Most of the stuff that Mgtow is these pieces and parts are pieces of parts of a priori thinking. And you put these little pieces that you know to be true. And stats just happen to know to be true. It's just known to be true. Stats are true. You can't argue with a stat. If the stat is on its own, when we get in trouble, we start comparing two different things, and that doesn't work. If you simply say, hey, the percentage of marriage working out is less than 20%, and I'm not willing to take that, and that's just the truth, and I'm not going to do that. But I have to put something in replace of that. I have to fulfill my life with some other thing. And then Mgtow, friends, family, projects, whatever you're working on, the things that make men happy, all that stuff, you're putting things in place, and then you're trying to figure out a better way of living. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about nihilism, getting stuck on the nihilism, the skepticism. We've seen a movement of skepticism a few years ago, when everybody was the big skeptic, everybody was going to be the contrarian. We've got some awful results with that, with meme warfare and Kekism, and everything's for laughs, we can look at that now pragmatically. We can look at that mob pragmatically and say, hey, did this thing really work, or was it just a way to irritate everybody on the internet? Without moving forward in life. But that's what we were talking about last night with misanthropic altruists. We got immature groups out there now, children basically. I don't know how long I'm going to do this. My knee is really fucked up bad, and I can't sit for a long period of time, so I wanted to make this short. 5 hours of sitting last night nearly killed me, but uh, so we got immature groups now. We got immature philosophers, and we got immature Mgtows that okay, we're taking everything off the table, and we see this all around the world. We see this with Antifa. They're immature philosophers that don't want to be ruled under a fascist government. If you ask 100% of the population if they wanted to be ruled by a fascist, most of the population in any culture would say, no, I'd rather be under a democracy where we vote and everybody gets a choice and all that stuff. I don't want to be ruled over. So in that sense, they're just very mature, and some of their immature actions, it shows. But in their youth, they're starting from a point of nihilism. And then we can see on the other side, we have the Gavin McGinnis soy boys, or whatever you want to call those the far righters. They're starting from the same place. They're youthful and they're inexperienced, and they have these ideas, but they're usually based in a nihilistic sense. You can look at both of the groups and see nihilism is just really in there, and it's embedded in them, and they haven't grown in their political philosophies or even their life experience. Now, how can you expect these young kids to have any life experience at all, rather than what they see on TV, which is Disneyland, Pixar garbage, and maybe some high school, which is still about the most bizarre place in the whole world of drama, and Disneyland Pixar garbage, and nobody really listens to that stuff because you learn all you need to know pretty much before the 9th grade, and that's pretty much what you're going to learn in life. So high school is just a continuation of torturing you into waking up every day on time and going to sleep every day on time so you can hold a job. And that's the truth. So we have immature people with immature ideas, and it takes years and years, as we look at Nietzsche, as we look at Descartes, as we look at Camus, and we look at Foucault. Foucault even was ended abruptly because he could never get over the anomie of nihilism. And that's the truth about it. He took his life because he could never get over the anomie of nihilism. And that's where that leads to. In Mgtow, that's a big subject, and it's a big subject that we breach in here is the anomie, when you want to commit suicide. And that's what that's talking about. When life isn't worth living, when everything looks stupid, when everything looks ridiculous. We get to that point, we get to that anomie in life, and we have to do something. We have to take an action, and that's what Camus was talking about. But in Camus was a continuation of Nietzsche. Otherwise, they, we can continue on these things, and Dewey and James, and not even really James. Dewey was a continuation of James, and we'll get philosophers that continue on the ideas. Rawls was a continuation, I think, of Camus, and he did a wonderful job explaining justice. It's an ever continuation of philosophy, but you have to read the whole book when you do the book, or else you get stuck And if you get stuck on any things, you're just going to have fragmented thoughts. And that's what I see in America right now. I see all over the world. I see in France is immature people with fragmented thoughts that don't know how to progress, that there is no hope. And they're coming to that existential anami that Camus was talking about. But in Mgtow, we've pretty much figured it out. We take everything off the table. You say everything I learned was garbage, and it's not everything I learned. The important factors of what I know about mating and breeding, I'm going to take off the table, and then I'm going to say, who's more important here? I'm going to put Joe back on the table. And what do I know about Joe? Well, I know he's really pretty. And I know, I know a lot about Joe, and I do a deep introspection about what I know about Joe. What would make Joe happy? What is going to make you ask this about yourself? I know I'd fuck me. I would totally would. That comes from that meme with Silent Bob and Jay. Look it up. I know, Trav. Sometimes I feel stuck, but don't give up hope. I wait for the answer. And yeah, you just keep moving down the road, and you just keep doing this thing, and that's the best thing you can do. But at the end of everything, and this is what I've been saying for years, Mgtow has to take an action, and it's got to be an action, or else we're just stuck. We're stuck in the metaphysical club goo of ever thinking in the echo chamber of the internet. Unless you do that, Oliver Wendell Holmes and Dewey and a lot of people would just be ashamed of us. They would go, there they go again. They're stuck in that 1800s English European Cartesianism, and that's where they'll stay the rest of their lives. It's all about putting something in action. Whatever you're putting in action, just put it in action. If you're looking to get that house, go for it. If you're looking to get that tent, go for that, or that camper, go for it, and make that thing happen. There will be there's things along the way that are going to be horrible, like my knee right now. I blew out my knee, and this might inhibit my whole summer of riding my bike, and it inhibits making money, and it's inhibiting everything in life. It's just, these things are going to happen, and they happen to all of us, and they're going to happen 2 or 3 times in a lifetime. But we learn how to deal with it. We move on, and then we try to make the best of things as a Mgtow. And that's all you can, and that's all you have in this life. If you have some good friends, then maybe that works out well. If you don't, then great. No worries, mate. State-sponsored spy corp. State-sponsored spy corp. That's an interesting idea. So it's late, and it is late already. And I had a full day today of running Dougie. Dougie was sad today. I don't know why Dougie was sad. He wouldn't eat. I gave him I gave him the Beneful today, Sunday Beneful, and the good stuff at $2.40 a can. And he wouldn't eat that. And then I gave him an apple, and he wouldn't eat that. So I know he's stuck on something. He just sits there, and he's staring out into the middle distance outside right now, just standing there. And I don't know what's wrong with him. He's just depressed or something. I got to go give him a belly rub and a hug. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, is continued action in your life to or moving forward, and moving on in a method that works. And whatever that method that works for you, keep doing it. If it works in life, that's what Dewey would say. We have to test these things, and if it works out in life, keep freaking doing it. That's like a football player that finds that the other team can't cover a screen, and then he's going to keep doing it until they can cover a screen. And that's where things are won and lost in life, and that's what we try to teach here in Mgtow. And with that, I just come around to say hello to all you guys, and Sunday, go your own way, Mgtow, and do your own thing, and develop a system that works for you. But doing your own thing isn't sitting on one thing and saying, "This is me." Nobody sits on one thing in life. There's a whole lot of things that make up a person. It's like what is the parts of a what is a dog? The dog is the sum of all of its parts. It's a tail, it's a head, it's the teeth, it's the leg, it's the body, it's the fur, it's everything. It's not that one thing that's ever going to make you up. And that's it. That's all I got for you today, because I got to get off this chair because my knee is killing me. And I'm going to go to sleep and try to prop my leg up and try to heal a little. Some relaxing sleep. So thanks a lot for coming around, Rick. Rick. And Taryn and Matt Ossie and whoever watches this in the future. I was thinking about that thing today. I was thinking about the what James said about the squirrel. The squirrel, if you and it was perplexing for a while. The squirrel in the tree. If you're trying, he come out of the woods and the guys were looking at a squirrel in a tree, and they said, now if I went over to the squirrel and I started looking at the squirrel and I tried to encompass the squirrel, but the squirrel kept moving, so I couldn't encompass the squirrel, but I went all the way around the tree. Did I go around the squirrel? And that's pragmaticism. Life's complex. Did you go around the squirrel? Well, you went around a tree. And if you did it mathematically, yeah, you did. But did you pass up the squirrel? That's a different question. Maybe we're framing these questions wrong, he said. That's what James said. Maybe we're framing these questions wrong. Did you go around the squirrel? To go around something, you actually, if you think about the mathematical problem, you met it halfway you went around the squirrel. Just because you couldn't see the squirrel from the opposite side doesn't mean you didn't encompass it, but you met that halfway. But for going around something, no, you didn't. Maybe you went around it. It's how you think about things. Some people would say, yeah, I went around it. Some people go, no, you never went around it because you never passed it up and exceeded it. So language is complex and things are screwed up, and sometimes we misinterpret things that are said from other people, and that's what James was saying. We're not all on the same page, and sometimes we have to do things by action only and see if they work. And that's about it. That's all I got for you guys. So I'm going to let you guys go and have a great day. And most of all, thanks for coming around, each and every one of you. And most of all, thanks for being a Mgtow. Mgtow.